Hello, my name is Gretchen Tyndall, and I am video recording assignment one. And the first question for assignment one is name 4 to 5 best practices for effective communication between project members. And Boyer, which is one of the sources for our reading this week, tells us at its core, a culture of communication is about using the right techniques to engage the right audience about a relevant topic at the optimal time. So the first best practice for effective communication would be having the right conversation at the right time with the right people. Oftentimes at work, we are trying to solve a problem and we don't have the people in the room who can effectively solve the problem. So that would be number one. Also, Matt Abrams from Talk Fast, Talk Smart tells us that one of the best ways to communicate effectively is by actually talking to each other. So sometimes we don't take the time to have the conversations that we need to have. I know often my day is so busy that I don't make the effort or I don't take the time to stop and have a conversation with my boss. And then a problem that could have been resolved goes on maybe too long. Brene Brown, who wrote Dare to Lead, says that clear is kind. And what that means to me is not trying to sugarcoat something or not trying to not hurt someone's feelings. Being direct, being honest, being timely in what we're saying to people without being cruel. And that's what being clear is kind means to me. Another Brene Brown best practice is that people need to build trust, and people need to build trust in small ways every single day. It's not about doing one big thing for someone that builds their trust in you. It's about showing up when you say that you're going to show up, or doing what you commit to doing. And in that way, communication becomes more effective, because when people trust each other, then they believe what the person is saying. And that goes a long way toward having good communication between team members. Why can effective communication be difficult in higher education? Boyer, again, tells us that a culture of communication is found in top colleges to work for. These cultures are created by administrations that cultivate staff and community engagement, as well as sharing information and asking for feedback from stakeholders. One or two ways that I can de-escalate a situation when a disagreement occurs. So I've been in a leadership position now for 3 years, and they're often tense situations. I know personally I don't handle things as well in the afternoon or in the late evening because I'm more tired. I'm much more diplomatic. I'm much more alert and aware in the morning. So if I can plan it, and I know I have something difficult to handle, I'll try to schedule that for the morning. Brene Brown, again from Dare to Lead, talks about box breathing, because oftentimes when we are in a confrontational situation, we don't breathe very well. Or we get so upset or so nervous or so angry that our emotions kind of take over our ability to communicate. So box breathing, or what she calls tactical breathing, which is just a method of inhaling, slowly counting to 4, holding your breath for 4 seconds, exhaling for 4 seconds, and then again holding at the exhale for 4 seconds, and then doing that 4 or 5 times until someone calms down can absolutely de-escalate a situation. Another method that is discussed in both Love and Logic and Brene Brown's Dare to Lead is writing down what the person is saying. By beginning to take notes and writing down what someone is saying, the conversation slows down. The person who's writing can ask for clarification, and then the person who's speaking has to either agree or disagree that that's what they said or that that's what they meant, because sometimes people say things in anger, and then when they hear those comments or when they hear what they have said read back to them, they realize that it was pretty harsh and that that's not how they wanted to communicate. So writing things down, clarifying to people what they've said, or asking for clarification from people can also be an effective way to de-escalate a bad situation. Another way that I learned from Brene Brown is to tell myself that I'm strong enough to hear the criticism that someone is giving me. So to listen without getting defensive, without trying to interrupt that person, and just telling myself, I can do this, I can listen to this. Because sometimes the escalation comes from the fact that someone has something that they want to say, and maybe they've held it in for a long time, so they're not communicating it very nicely or very well. And the person that they're communicating to doesn't want to listen to that negativity. So they become defensive, they become argumentative. So by telling myself I'm strong enough to hear what someone has to say, I can hear them out, basically. And sometimes that's enough to de-escalate a situation right there, because people sometimes get very angry when they don't feel heard. In combination with telling myself that I'm strong enough to hear criticism, I can also ask the person questions. I can become what Brene Brown calls curious. I can ask, how long have they felt that way? Can they tell me more? Can they explain what they mean? And that's also another love and logic technique to deal with an angry person, an angry parent specifically in a school setting. But to deal with an angry person, I can start asking them questions and get curious. And again, that can de-escalate a situation by making someone feel heard, and by finding out more, because maybe I assumed that I understood what a person felt or meant, and maybe I really didn't. One other Brene Brown technique that I find fascinating is her line, "The story I'm making up is." So this is a technique that she advises using with ourselves when we start to get anxious about a situation, just to clarify to ourselves what it is exactly that we're most afraid of. And then she also advises using that line with other people. For example, I could say to someone, the story I'm making up is the reason you didn't bring me those materials is because you think I'm selfish and I ask for too many things. And that gives the person an opportunity to say, yes, that's exactly how I feel, or to give another explanation about why they didn't bring the materials, for example. And it builds trust, because that person now knows that I understand there's tension, and that I really want to clarify that, and I really want to fix it and make that situation right. So those are some of the ways that I can de-escalate a situation in a higher education setting, and some barriers to communication, and some ways that I think that we can fix that. Thank you very much.